They tried everything. They used ancient rituals and buried intentions, whispered curses, and stitched names into cloth soaked in malice. Their aim was precise: to break you. Not just harm you physically or emotionally, but to crush your spirit from the inside out. They invoked forces that should not be disturbed, fueled by envy, bitterness, and fear. Why? Because you carry light they cannot understand. Because your existence alone bends the energies around you. Because no matter how silent you've been, your presence shakes their shadows loose. They tried black magic, real dark energy aimed straight at your soul. But it didn't work. Something protected you, something beyond the veil. And you need to understand just how powerful that truth really is. Before we dive deeper into this, take a moment. Watch this video until the very end. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Let every word anchor you back into your truth. And if you feel it in your heart, leave a comment with your warmest wish and the number 77, a sacred number that awakens divine timing. This is a chapter about wishes coming true and energizing the universe around you. What you pour into the world now pours back multiplied. Let's amplify the light together. What you've survived, most don't even see coming. Because black magic isn't just candle wax and rituals under blood moons. It's intentional energy sent with one goal: destruction. And not everyone would even notice it creeping in. But you did. You felt the weight, the pull, the sudden spiral into confusion, despair, and inexplicable loss. Maybe you thought you were cursed. Maybe everything started going wrong at once. Isolation, sickness, sudden endings, silent betrayals, people turning cold overnight. But deep inside, you knew this wasn't random. Something unnatural had slithered its way into your field. And yet, you're still here. That matters. That speaks volumes. Because black magic requires silence and secrecy to work. But your energy, chosen one, is anything but quiet. It's loud in the spiritual realm. It draws attention from the highest light. Your very DNA holds memory of protection, wisdom, and guidance. Something ancient watches over you. Every time someone sent darkness your way, you were shielded by something older than curses. Love, purpose, destiny. There were moments it almost worked. Let's not pretend otherwise. You've had nights when the weight of invisible chains almost dragged you under. Nights when you couldn't even explain what you were feeling. You just knew something was wrong. You just knew something was after you. But you kept waking up. You kept breathing. You kept dreaming. And that's what they couldn't stand. Because when someone chooses to rise, even when drenched in shadows, they become unstoppable. The ones who sent this darkness your way weren't always strangers. Sometimes they wore smiles. Sometimes they pretended to care. But energy never lies. And on some level, your spirit recognized the shift. You began to feel drained around them, sick after meeting them, anxious without knowing why. This wasn't your imagination. It was spiritual warfare. They studied your patterns, learned your triggers, and tried to manipulate your weaknesses. But even as they weaved webs of malice, something divine stood between their intentions and your soul. It could have been an ancestor, a spirit guide, a guardian presence from another realm, or maybe your future self, blazing with light, echoing back through time to shield you from collapse. Whatever it was, it stood firm. It took the hits so you didn't have to. It rerouted spells, shattered hexes, and rebalanced your path. They saw you fall, but never stay down. They watched you cry, but never break. That resilience, that was your protection in motion. Let's talk about the signs. Because even though it felt like your world was falling apart, strange things began happening. You'd think of someone harmful, and they'd disappear. You'd have a gut feeling not to go somewhere, and later find out something dark was waiting there. You'd lose objects, only to find them returned in odd places. Birds showing up at your windows. Dreams that felt more like messages. Electrical glitches. A voice telling you to wait. These weren't coincidences. These were your protectors speaking in the only ways they could. You were never alone, and you never will be. Your light startled something in the dark, and they panicked. They used tools passed down through generations, things hidden from the modern eye, because they knew you weren't just anyone. They sensed the shift in frequency every time you entered a room. They saw their control slipping the more confident you became. You stopped being easy to manipulate. You started setting boundaries. You began knowing. And that was dangerous to them. They didn't just want to hurt you. They wanted to silence you, to stop your evolution, to disconnect you from your voice, your path, your mission, because they feared what would happen if you ever remembered who you truly are. A soul chosen for more. A being aligned with higher realms. Someone protected not just by energy, but by cosmic decree. And this is the part they never understood. The more they tried to destroy you, the stronger your protection became. Every attack was met with a stronger defense. Every spell they cast returned with a lesson, a gift, an upgrade in disguise. You were being refined, transformed, awakened, because something divine saw the attack and said, "Not this one, not today." So you walked through fire and didn't burn. You fell and rose again. You cried and kept going. You stood in rooms filled with invisible arrows and walked out untouched. You were protected not just from others, but sometimes from yourself, from decisions you almost made, from people you almost trusted, from paths you almost took. The universe rerouted you with chaos so you wouldn't settle for the curse. You began to question everything. And in that questioning, you were guided to truth. And now, chosen one, the veil is lifting. The people who sent this energy will begin to reveal themselves. They'll stumble, they'll slip, their masks will fall off one by one. Because truth is light, and your light is now too bright to stay hidden. They can't control what they can't confuse. They can't harm what has remembered its power. And here's what's wild. Even now, some of them are still trying. Still lighting candles and whispering names. Still hoping you'll crack under pressure. But they don't understand. Your protection isn't something that can be removed. It's earned. It's divine. It's permanent. You don't just have protection. You are protection. You carry the codes. You are the vessel that cannot be broken, only transformed. This is only the beginning. You were never meant to blend in. You were born to be felt, in silence, in strength, in survival. And when they couldn't control you with kindness, when their smiles stopped working, they turned to darkness. They thought they could bend your will by summoning forces beyond your sight. But what they didn't know was this. You've walked with the unseen longer than they've dabbled in the dark. Long before they lit a single candle with hatred in their heart, the light inside you had already been chosen. There's a reason you felt targeted in waves. The attacks didn't just come once. They returned, sometimes in different forms, cloaked in new faces or strange misfortunes. But every time they thought you were down for good, you found another layer of strength. That wasn't luck. That was alignment. That was spiritual protection, responding in real time. The very forces they sent against you began recoiling the moment they reached your field. You weren't just spared, you were made stronger with every attempt. Chosen one, this isn't a fantasy. This isn't metaphor. The spiritual war you endured was real. You were the battlefield, and the enemy never announced itself at the front door. Number it crept in through shadows, through people pretending to love you, through hands that took more than they gave, through moments that drained you of all joy, all clarity, all trust. You questioned your sanity. You doubted your worth. But the one thing you never fully surrendered was your light. That mattered, because in the spirit world, your light is loud. It vibrates like a siren, and when you were under attack, that light sent out a call, not of fear, but of activation. Your ancestors, your angels, your guides, they answered. Some of them stood between you and the curse. Others whispered into your dreams. Some rerouted events in your favor, even if it looked like destruction. That job you lost, that relationship that fell apart, that unexpected ending, all of it was coded. All of it was protection disguised as pain. They tried to delay you, but they could never deny you, because your mission on this planet isn't casual. It's divine, and anything that threatens that mission is immediately met with resistance from realms that don't play games, realms where your soul is honored, realms where your energy is guarded like sacred flame. They assumed you'd give up when things got heavy. They hoped you'd crumble under pressure, but instead, you got quiet. You got still. You started listening to something deeper, and that silence was the beginning of your return. That silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. They underestimated the war inside you, because you weren't just fighting them, you were fighting the old versions of yourself, the ones that trusted too easily, the ones that overgave, the ones that ignored their intuition for the sake of peace. But peace without protection isn't peace. It's permission for harm. So you changed, slowly, painfully, but permanently. They didn't know that every attack leveled you up. Every betrayal cleared the path. Every setback refined your vision. You were being shaped by forces greater than their rituals. You were being armed from the inside out, and what they sent to destroy you ended up activating the very gifts they feared. You see, chosen one, black magic relies on fear. It feeds off confusion, doubt, and opens spiritual wounds. But when you began healing, truly healing, not just pretending to be fine, but actually rising, their spells lost access to you. Because healing isn't just a personal act, it's a spiritual shield. You broke their curses by reclaiming your truth. They wanted you silent, but you started speaking. They wanted you weak, but you started glowing. They wanted you alone, but you discovered the universe was never not with you. And now they're watching from a distance, wondering why nothing is working, wondering why the same energy they've used on others suddenly can't touch you, because you're not the same person who was once vulnerable to that frequency. You are recalibrated, armored, initiated by pain, but raised by purpose. You've walked through fire, and you carry the scent of survival like a crown. And don't get it twisted. Some of them are still trying, still hoping, still sending. But what they don't understand is this. There's a cost for touching the chosen. There's a price for invoking darkness against divine beings. And that cost is coming for them. Not by your hand, but by universal law. Because energy doesn't disappear. It returns. It rebounds. It resets. You didn't have to curse them back. You didn't have to light candles or chant names. Your very existence is the reversal. Your glow is the retribution. Your joy is the justice. Your peace is the prophecy fulfilled. You are the spell they couldn't undo. And now, every time they mention your name, it only fuels your protection. They can't unsee your rise. They can't undo your resilience. And they'll never understand how you survived. Because what saved you wasn't visible. It was encoded, ancient, sacred, a force they never believed in. Because it doesn't answer to darkness. It overrides it. They used black magic to break you, but something sacred blocked them. And now, that same force is preparing you for more. Because your survival wasn't the end. It was the initiation, the beginning, the emergence of the version of you they feared all along. They wanted silence. Instead, the universe gave them your echo. And it's only getting louder. There are things that happen to you in secret that only the heavens witnessed. You didn't always have words for what was happening. You just felt it. The sudden waves of heaviness, the unexplainable fatigue, the way people's energy shifted without cause, the feeling that something invisible was weighing you down, tracking your every move, waiting for a crack. You weren't paranoid, you were perceptive. They tried to convince you otherwise, but your spirit knew. You were under spiritual attack, and not just from anyone. The attacks came from those who knew enough about you to weaponize what you loved. They studied your kindness, your patterns, your open heart, and they used it. Some of them wore smiles while planting curses. Some of them hugged you while sending hexes. And some of them you'll never know by name. But your spirit always knew how to recoil in their presence. It wasn't all in your mind. You were being targeted, but something ancient stood between you and destruction. This protection wasn't loud. It didn't strike back in the ways your enemies expected. It moved in silence. It whispered in winds. It came in the form of delayed plans, redirected paths, sudden losses that later became your greatest redirections. It worked behind the scenes, because the war wasn't just physical, it was energetic. Chosen one, not everyone who smiled at you was harmless. Some were jealous of your peace, others couldn't stand your purpose, and others, consumed by their own shadows, sought to dim your light just to feel taller. But when they found that ordinary manipulation didn't work, they took a darker route. Black magic isn't a fairy tale, it's real, and it's used by the desperate. It doesn't always look like potions or rituals. Sometimes it's gossip laced with hate. Sometimes it's envy spoken like concern. Sometimes it's wishing for your downfall with such intensity that it creates energetic cords around you. These are attacks, psychic, spiritual, designed to entangle your frequency, delay your alignment, and confuse your path. But here you are, still standing, still rising, still chosen. And that's not by accident, because what they didn't calculate was the energy around your name, the prayers spoken over your soul long before you were born, the agreements made by your spirit in realms they cannot access. They tapped into dark forces. But your life is protected by light that cannot be matched or mimicked. There were nights when the attacks almost worked, when you couldn't sleep, when fear visited your chest like a storm, when you felt like you were losing your mind. That was them, reaching for you, hoping to keep you small. But something, someone, always pulled you back from the edge. A dream, a voice, a sign, a sudden wave of strength you couldn't explain. That wasn't coincidence. That was covenant. Because you're not just protected, you are claimed. You don't belong to this world in the way they do. Your origin is different. Your destiny is sealed. And when the chosen are attacked, it triggers an alarm across realms. That's why the protection never came from where you expected. It wasn't people that saved you. It was divine design. They wanted you to be destroyed by isolation. But the solitude refined you. They wanted your anxiety to drown you. But you learned how to breathe beneath it. They wanted the delays to discourage you, but they became your preparation. They wanted to dim your faith, but you used the darkness to see your own light. They never understood the real power inside you, because it doesn't announce itself. It activates under pressure, it waits for adversity, it grows in fire. That's what you are, chosen one, fireproof by fate. And no amount of spiritual warfare can change that. What they sent to stop you, it backfired. Every curse they crafted became a mirror. Every ritual they performed became a test they failed, because they forgot. Energy doesn't lie, and it doesn't serve the unworthy. The universe doesn't bend to those who try to manipulate it for selfish gain. The universe bends to truth, to purpose, to divine contracts, and yours is sealed. Your spirit carries the signature of survival. It's written in your silence, in your endurance, in the fact that you never gave up. Not really. Even on the hardest days, your soul kept whispering, "Hold on." Even when you couldn't see the way forward, you kept moving. That's what made you unstoppable. That's what they never understood. It wasn't about strength. It was about resonance. Your frequency is holy. And now, after everything, you are walking proof that black magic cannot override destiny. You are still chosen. You are still protected. And everything they did only made your armor stronger. They whispered against you. You spoke truth into yourself. They cursed your name. The universe blessed your path. They tried to bind your energy. You broke every chain. And now, their darkness can no longer enter your field. Because what once found you vulnerable now finds you unreachable. You are beyond their access. Your story is no longer theirs to distort. You are the living proof that the light wins, that love is the strongest shield, that the chosen cannot be broken, only built. Let them wonder how you're still here. Let them question why their efforts failed. Let them realize too late that what stood between you and their harm wasn't weakness. It was protection. It was prophecy. It was the universe saying, "Not this one, not ever." They don't understand how much it cost you to keep your soul intact. They think because you didn't retaliate, you weren't affected. They think because you didn't collapse, it didn't hurt. But they'll never understand the silent wars you fought just to wake up and try again. Every time they sent something your way, spoken or unspoken, cursed or coded, you felt it, not just in your mind, but in your body, in your emotions, in your atmosphere. The heaviness, the cloudiness, the strange stagnation when everything should have been moving forward. That wasn't bad luck. That was spiritual interference. And yet, you still moved. They used black magic as a weapon, but it ended up being your initiation. It forced you inward. It taught you to listen to frequencies instead of words. It sharpened your intuition, made you more aware, more discerning. They thought they were binding you, but they were breaking you open to truth, open to depth, open to power you had forgotten how to access. Because the more they tried to silence you, the more the universe activated you. Every attempt against you became a doorway. Every pain became permission. The attacks didn't just miss, they transformed you. And that was their biggest mistake. They aimed to disable you, but they only woke up the part of you that could never be touched again. They came for the unhealed version of you, but she's gone. He's gone. What's left is the refined version, the soul forged in fire, the spirit who has walked through every valley of confusion, betrayal, and unseen warfare, and still rose. Chosen one, you were never meant to be normal. That's why the attacks weren't normal either. You carry codes within your energy that disrupt darkness just by existing. People feel it before you speak. Rooms shift when you enter. and the ones still married to their own shadows. They feel exposed in your light. That's why they target you. Not because of what you've done, but because of what you are. And what you are is divine. Not by ego, by design. You're not better. You're different. You see through layers. You feel through walls. You catch vibrations others ignore. And while they use words to deceive, you use silence to reveal. That's what makes you dangerous to those who operate in illusion. They can't fool you, so they try to stop you. But darkness cannot stop what it cannot reach. And they can't reach you anymore, because you finally understood what this was. You stopped asking why they did it. You stopped trying to fix, to explain, to prove your purity. You let go of trying to be understood by people who were never meant to hold your truth. And when you did that, the spells broke, because the power of black magic lies in your reaction. And once you stopped reacting, they lost control. That's silence, that's surrender, that wasn't weakness, that was your higher self stepping in, because the divine doesn't need to prove anything. It simply is. You are the living embodiment of divine resilience. You were attacked, and you still protected others. You were cursed, and you still blessed. You were broken, and you still found a way to rise without seeking revenge. That is not weakness. That is sacred power. And now, the very force that kept you alive is preparing to elevate you. Because this wasn't just about protection, it was about positioning. You were never just being saved. You were being shifted into deeper purpose, into higher alignment, into a version of yourself that no amount of darkness could ever dismantle again. What you carry now isn't just survival, it's divine authority. You didn't just go through this to heal. You went through it to lead, to speak, to shine, and to show others what happens when light is touched by darkness, but doesn't die. You became something their magic could never undo. Their rituals didn't reach your root. Their words didn't change your worth. Their hatred didn't kill your hope, because you were never alone. Even in the worst moments, someone or something stood with you. The ancestors, the guides, the source, the presence, the force. Call it what you will, but you felt it. That quiet calm in the chaos. That knowing that you couldn't explain. That invisible shield you didn't ask for but received anyway. That was real, and it's still with you. It walks ahead of you now. It's clearing paths, closing doors, cutting ties, removing anything and anyone that no longer resonates with your evolved frequency. Not as punishment, but as protection. Not because you're better, but because your soul is needed elsewhere. Higher places, purer spaces. The warfare wasn't just an attack, it was a sorting, a separation between what you were and what you are becoming. And no matter how strong the spell, no matter how deep the curse, it could not cancel the one truth written across every chapter of your story. You were chosen, and the chosen are always covered. You didn't imagine it, the sudden disconnection between you and people you once trusted, the inexplicable fatigue that didn't go away with rest, the nights where you felt like something was watching you, something unseen, trying to drag your energy downward, the dreams that weren't dreams, but warnings, the confusion that made you second-guess your path, your power, your worth. These weren't mood swings. They were symptoms of a war most people will never understand. You were targeted spiritually, and not because you were weak, but because you were waking up. Chosen one, you carry something in your spirit that makes the hidden dark forces nervous. Your light disturbs their grip. Your presence disrupts their spell. And when they realized they couldn't break you through the usual channels, criticism, betrayal, manipulation. They reached for something darker. Black magic isn't about Hollywood drama. It's about energy, intention, obsession, and frequency. And it's real. It begins with jealousy, evolves into hatred, and then matures into action, spiritual action. They send energy cords, project thoughts, use objects and rituals with the sole intention of stopping your light from rising. And sometimes, yes, you felt it. That's how you knew it was never just coincidence. You've walked through days where you felt like you were fighting for your very soul. But what they didn't count on is what you carry inside. They didn't see the guardians surrounding your energy field. They didn't know about the ancient power that has walked with you since your first breath. They forgot that light can bend, but never breaks. And they underestimated the force that would rise within you the moment they tried to destroy you. Because you are chosen. And no force in existence can overwrite divine selection. You were born into a world that wanted to forget the power of the soul. But your soul remembers. Even now, it remembers who you are, why you came, what you're here to become. It remembers every divine agreement, every promise made in the sacred realm before your body ever knew this earth. And it is that memory, that eternal, untouched awareness, that saved you. They threw shadows at you, but your light was too ancient. They tried to confuse your mind, but your spirit knew the truth. They tried to break your body, but your soul was untouchable. You see, what protected you wasn't just luck or timing. It was design. You were built to survive this. You were encoded with resilience that no ritual can remove. You carry within you the energy of thousands of warriors who came before you. Souls who endured darkness far beyond what words can describe. And they walk with you. They whispered in your dreams. They blocked what you couldn't see. They pulled you back every time darkness tried to pull you under. Not because you begged, but because you are meant to make it. And not just survive, thrive. The protection you received wasn't temporary. It was eternal. It wasn't just for that moment. It's for your whole path. Because you are a messenger. You are a light carrier. You are a soul the darkness wanted to silence before your voice reached others who are still sleeping. But here you are, speaking, rising, remembering. They used black magic to stop your mission. But the truth is, they activated it because through that storm, you were refined. You became more precise with your energy. You learned to say no without guilt. You learned how to feel who was draining you, even when they smiled. You learned to recognize manipulation dressed as love. You awakened discernment, power, silence that speaks, stillness that protects. You became untouchable in ways they cannot understand. Because now, you know who you are, and that's what scares them most. You're not who you were when they first cast those spells. You're not naive anymore. You're not energetically open to everything and everyone. You've closed the gates. You've upgraded your field, and no spell can hold where alignment lives. They may still try, chosen one, because some people become obsessed with controlling what they cannot comprehend. But their energy doesn't reach you anymore, because now you see. And when you see, you shift. You don't need to fight them. You don't need revenge, because your elevation is the echo that speaks for itself. And now, those who sent darkness your way are watching something they never thought possible. Your glow increasing, your clarity sharpening, your purpose unfolding. They wanted to curse your path, and now they're forced to witness your rise. Every attempt only made you stronger. Every setback, sacred. Every loss, an upgrade in disguise. You've been protected because you are destined. And this protection isn't passive, It's proactive. It doesn't just block the blow. It transforms the energy into wisdom. It doesn't just shield you. It expands you. You are now a mirror, reflecting back people's true intentions. And those still living in shadow can't stand the reflection. That's why they distance themselves now. That's why the energy shifts when you walk in. Because you carry truth. And truth doesn't need to shout. It simply radiates. So don't question your protection ever again. Don't wonder if you were worthy of being saved. You weren't just saved, you were seen. You were claimed. You were guided. And now, nothing can reach you unless it comes with light. The frequency you operate on now cannot hold lower forces. You've been purified, elevated, rewired, and you are rising into the version of yourself that the darkness tried to erase. But they couldn't, because something greater had already written the final word over your life. And that word is unbreakable. It was never about punishment. It was preparation. The pain, the shadows, the isolation. None of it was meant to destroy you. It was meant to strip you, not of your identity, but of the illusions, the fake love, the spiritual leeches, the energy distortions that kept you in places far smaller than your soul was ever designed for. Black magic didn't come because you were weak. It came because you were about to remember. And you did. Every attack was an initiation. Every loss was a lesson. Every delay, a divine filter. They tried to slow you down, but it only gave you more time to see the truth. They tried to make you question yourself, but all it did was force you to find the answers within. The rituals, the curses, the whispers behind closed doors. None of them could touch what was sealed in your spirit long before your enemies ever knew your name. Because the moment you were chosen, you were guarded, not just by ancestors, not just by angels, but by the very laws of the universe itself. You see, when you're born with divine purpose, the entire fabric of reality bends to protect that mission. The elements obey, time pauses, space shifts. Unseen hands redirect outcomes that should have broken you. That's why you survived what others didn't. That's why you kept moving when everything around you said stop. That's why doors that should have stayed shut opened, and those that needed to close slammed with force. Because no energy sent against you can override sacred design. They used black magic to break you, but the truth is, they only exposed your indestructibility. Every spell became a spotlight. Every hex became a trigger for divine intervention. You were covered in ways they couldn't see. While they whispered in secret, the universe spoke louder. While they planted seeds of sabotage, spirit planted strength. While they tangled themselves in shadows, you were being prepared to walk in power. A kind of power that doesn't just defend, it transforms. It walks into a room and shifts the frequency without a word. That's what you are now, a living disruption to darkness. Your vibration has changed. You don't attract what you used to. You no longer tolerate what drains you. The people who once played with your heart, your kindness, your trust, they can no longer find their way into your space. Not because you're cold, but because your spirit has been recalibrated. You have become sacred ground, and not everyone has permission to stand on sacred ground. Chosen one, the truth is this: you were never just protected from them. You were protected for something greater. There is a timeline ahead that needs your energy, a reality waiting for your influence, a space only you can fill. And now that you've been through the valley of shadows, now that you've stared into the eyes of spiritual warfare and didn't bow, now that you've seen what lurks beneath the surface and kept your soul intact, you're finally ready to walk in that higher calling, ready to claim the peace that can't be faked, ready to receive the kind of love that honors your evolution, ready to build from wholeness, not from wounds. You didn't come this far just to talk about survival. You came to embody transformation. You didn't just break the spells, you rewrote your destiny in real time. Because something greater refused to let you fall. A presence too ancient, too powerful, too intimate with your soul stepped in. Not because you begged loud enough, but because your very existence sends a ripple through the spiritual realm. A reminder that the light never loses. Not truly. Yes, they used black magic, but what they didn't know is that you were wrapped in something more potent than any ritual, chant, or candle. You were wrapped in grace, covered in alignment, and tethered to a destiny that cannot be undone, no matter who tries. So here you are, whole, wiser, stronger, unreachable to what once haunted you. And if they try again, they won't be met with the version of you they once knew. They'll meet a soul fully aware of its power, a spirit backed by divine law, a being who doesn't need to fight in the dark because the light already won. This is your truth now, and no one, nothing, no force in existence gets to rewrite it. You are protected, you are ascending, and you will be remembered, not for the attacks you endured, but for the unshakable light you became because of them. This is your legacy. This is your moment, and no black magic will ever touch you again. Not now, not ever.